The aggression behind Raila Odinga for calling audit of the last year's general election is at the center of the Kenyan stalemate, political stalemate, and it is rendering Kenya broke in terms of political stability. Politically, we are unstable, and experts have zeroed down to 6 confidential servers that, if opened, can settle the matter once and for all. I promised you guys that the discussion about the server, we're going to have this for the rest of William Ruto's first term, if in case it's going on. Welcome to the Bold Analysis. Thank you very much for your support. Kindly subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for those who are sharing our videos in Facebook and different platforms. I want to appreciate you for pushing this brand. I've just realized today we hit 48,000 subscribers. Asanteni sana. The calls to open the server have been treated as a political coercion trap set by Raila Odinga to make Ruto regime be a leaning regime. Upon the formation of the bipartisan team, we saw Raila Odinga raising the stakes, but would have opted to question the legality of the audit of the last general election. So many questions have been asked, with one being, what is the legal recourse in it? So let's find out these 6 servers and to what extent did Supreme Court arbitrate on these servers. This will be a very interesting analysis for you, and I want you not to miss. I listened to a very interesting report from 2 gentlemen, Njoroge and I think Walubengo. Walubengo was amicus curiae and was the person who was supposed to advise the Supreme Court judges on the ICT matters. Remember, this matter was very close to my heart because I really took a lot of criticism to the judges that they were not aware, or they did not have the capacity to really question and give very good report on matters IEBC. And in this report, they have zeroed into some 6 servers. I want us to look at the 4, which is the most important. Then we're going to finish with the 2. The first server is the registration server. Now, this is the server that carries the registration data set. It is what carries the biometrics. The biometrics, the names, the ID numbers, and the faces, and the biometric, the biodata of the voters. And it is this server that is used at registration. It's what keeps the data carried at registration. Someone may want to, may be curious enough to ask, how is that relevant now? Remember, for those who've been following, for those who followed last general election, I'm so much acquainted with this fact because last year, somewhere in June, UDA came up with a claim that 1 million voters had been deleted from the register. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember that, then that is the server that William Ruto team were actually complaining about. I think it's about time. It's important to get that soundbite here.
Everybody who is concerned, including the EU, to try and get as much detail as possible, both from the IEBC and from these public officials, on what this all is about and how did close to 1 million names disappear from the register. And many of those names are people from what we consider. It is, however, obvious and clear to us.
Now, that claim came when a UDA team around William Ruto's presidential team met with European Union. I think it was in a Nairobi hotel here. in the wake of in preparation for the last general election. And people were asking, how did they get the data? It pointed out a question that server was infiltrated. And that was by then. So it will help you understand. Just I wanted to understand that bit up to that level, because I really took time to listen to that report by those two gentlemen. And that's what I'm trying then to explain to you here. So the other data, the second data, apart from the first one, I've tried to organize them in order of relevance. So from that, we had the MDM or MDS. You'll get the difference. MDN is Master Data Management, or the MDS is Mobile Device System. So this is it. This is the server that was central point receiving all the data from the KIMS kit. On the election day, after voting, the counting is done. The data that is entered in the Form 34A, or that is entered in the hard copy, is also supposed to be scanned, screened, and sent through a KIMS kit to a server. A central server. This is the central server that receives all the information, all the data from KIMS kits. Now, why do you think, why did Azimio want to look at this server? This server had some very interesting controversies. Number one, look at this tweet here. There was a tweet, and remember during the Supreme Court case when it was going on, Julie Soweto brought a claim that a KIMS kit in Bungoma sent results, one KIMS kit sent results from Nyeri and Bungoma at the same time, despite the fact that each polling station had its own KIMS kit with an IP address. And again, there's a question of, within a second, 8,000 polling KIMS kits sent data at the same time. And that was a bit questionable. That one other thing here is, the case of Venezuelans that were arrested at the airport were heavily linked with coordination of this very, very, very same server. So this is, the KIMS is the Kenya Integrated Election Management System. And this was used both at the registration and then at the election day. This data, it will be harmonized with the registration data, so that you know, really, this is the data that will give us the trace of how many people voted. Because when you collect all the data from all the KIMS kits, you will know that each KIMS kit imeandikisha ngapi. You collect that with the KIMS kits that failed and the areas that voted manually, then you will actually know the actual turnout. So that's bit of the importance of this, and this will help really to find out harmonization of final results, the voting, the numbers that voted, and also the registration data, the kind of data that was there. We have the results transmission server. From the central server, there was the results transmission server. Now, this is the portal feeder. This is what will feed what was at the portal. I remember a gentleman, I think I need to get you that clip. A gentleman was asking, Mimia is even confused. Is server is different from portal, and portal says server? You know, I remember playing for you that. Now, this is what was feeding the server. The bonus results that you could see in the screen. And Raila even came out and really had to speak about this, because this was now the transmission line. On this one, also is much needed. These are some of what Raila actually was thinking about. I need to get you the sound bite of a very good Kenyan who was asking the difference between. Now, this is what exactly going on.
Yani wa Kenya mnataka kuniambia kwamba server si poto? Server si poto na poto si server? You want to tell me that I've been wrong all this while? Mwenye yako na server basi alete. So urere chisaba ba. Ewe. Oibuna saba. Kwa sababu sasa tutashinda hapo, tutashinda kwa kitu moja. Kama ni kitu kufunguliwa, server ni nini kwanza? Ni kitu inaweza funguliwa?
So that was the interesting question. And that's what I'm telling you. I was telling you guys that the whole thing can only be solved by the server question. Now, there is the fourth one. I want you to pay attention to this. This is the application server. Now, this is the software that is carrying all. This is the software that is provided by the Smartmatic company, and it is the software program that carries all the other three servers I'm talking about. In fact, even the other two, it is the mother of all. So this one is one that is bought from Smartmatic. In the 2017 general election, it was provided by the Otimorpho company. You remember the French-linked company, the France-based company. So this time around, they used Smartmatic. And this is the server that, despite of court order, Smartmatic wrote a letter and refused that it should not be opened and cannot be accessed because it had other confidential data belonging to elections in other countries or other data sets. So this is something that really caused, because this is where the question was, and I think it's part of why Raila Odinga team were actually bringing the claim that our elections are managed from the far end, despite the fact that this is something that affecting Kenyans, and someone is saying, there is that which I can't access. I don't know that was one software that is carrying election management system from all the countries where they're working in, but they were highly criticized because they refused. And something happened that I wanted to I will try to explain to you hapa mbele, because I really want you to get it. The Supreme Court judges, after giving orders, they went, the engineers that represented Azimio went to the IBC, and there was a push and pull into what could be accessed. To some extent, they were even calling for them to go back to court so that they get fresh orders. That the other two, these two are log servers. It is trail of actions, because in a server, any action that you do, if it is accessed, there must be a registration, or there must be a trail of so and so has gotten it. And again, it's about data trail. At what point, maybe at what time, and for how long, and who is that person? Is it a super user, or is it just someone in the front end? So that is the log servers, and then there's the backup, which is just the backup of the data set, so that if someone goes to delete what is in any of these servers, then the backup server can still be used. And that's why I can tell you that what William Ruto have, what Azimio La Umoja has been saying that open the servers, it has been made very simplistic in public as just going to open in key. But in real sense, it is a process. And because William Ruto and the UD team knows it is a process, it's a process that cannot take a day, by the way. It cannot just take a single day. Because it is a process, then they will not want to get into it for some few reasons I'm going to show you in this analysis. Now, after talking about the 6, I want you to listen to Raila Odinga, and speaking about these servers, he spoke about 4, and as I told you, these 4, there are 4 that are the heavy ones. Then the other 2 are not so much. So it's upon you then listen to what Raila says here, and please tell me in the comment sections which ones amongst the 6 servers I've spoken about that Raila Odinga was referring to.
Mtaka mwelewe vizuri. Vile ilikuwa servers, sasa tuligundua kulikuwa kuna servers 4. Ngapi? Moja ilikuwa kule Holland. Kule ndani ya mawingu huko, in the clouds. Pili ilikuwa nyingine kule Venezuela. Kule mbaya kuna mtu anaitwa Jose Camargo. 3 ilikuwa hapa katika Anniversary Towers pale ambayo IBC iko. 4 ilikuwa moja katika industrial area huko chini. Alafu katika Bomas wa Kenya kulikuwa na kitu inaitwa the portal pale ambayo sasa ili matokeo ilikuwa naingia.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think amongst the six? Which ones do you think Raila Odinga is referring to? If you can make your guess right, write it in the comment section. I really want to point out, get it. Now, I got this information from a very good interview that the gentleman I told you, Walubengo, Amicus Kuria, was a friend of the court, advisor on the judges, and the other one was representing Azimio Umoja. So it is not really one-sided story. It is something that both of them were weighing on it, and that was on Spice FM. You can even check out for that interview. So, why were the Azimio Umoja demanding? Why are they demanding that audit? They're demanding that audit. It is that audit that has been framed as open the servers, because you cannot go to the public and tell the public that we are calling for audit. That's an English that's a very big English that many people may not understand, and it may not be chewed well by the common man there. So that's why you need to make it open the servers, because that's what everyone else will get to understand. There were irregular actions, and I remember Njoroge asking that he was part of the 2005 team that formulated the ICT Act, or rather the ICT protocols that we use in the country. And they realized that when when they were granted what they accessed, they could point out irregular actions by users in that server. The question here is, what was someone doing in the server at midnight the day after election had been done? That's the question. There were presence of them in the election, in that server, at odd hours, as exactly asking, is it a custom? And I remember them asking that interview, is it normal? Is there a timeline that if you've provided, like for them, what they were alluding to, some maybe users from the Smartmatic end being on that server at midnight. So there were suspicions on what activities were actually going on there. And that is why they demanded, after realizing that, okay, there were some odd faces in that server at midnight, they demanded to more access so that they find out what exactly is going on. And at that point, IBC said, no, you need to go back to Supreme Court to get fresh orders to get this. So IBC really did not grant the full access. And I think that question was well captured in this video.
So essentially what we were looking to do at the time is have a clear traceability of all the users that logged in on the system, who logged, the time, what activities they carried out, and essentially look at the particular file they attempted or they did work on at the time.
Okay.
And even when we opened, because the Supreme Court now allowed for that to happen, the same was found. There was a login of the different users that you saw being discussed at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Their log activity was clearly seen.
Yeah.
The files and the particular folders and areas they accessed on the system was particularly seen.
Okay.
That in itself is not in doubt. What is in doubt is the interpretation of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know John, I've known John
so you
for
can,
nearly
that's the
20 years or
question.
so.
What were they doing there? And
We
that's
wrote
why
the
they demanded
ICT policy
then
with
the
John.
ASMU are demanding that there could be suspicion, because interpretation of the court orders on access to the servers was limited, and IEBC engineers had the prerogative of determining to what extent they're going to open it, what to open and what not. And so this is the accused asking you that, I'm accusing you of some election malpractice, but you're the same person that must tell me this is the window you can open and this is the door you can open, but that one you cannot open. So that is why this question of audit should not be treated as an aggression towards maybe poking holes on illegitimacy of, or rather legitimacy or illegitimacy of William Ruto, but it is an opportunity to ask ourselves very simple and important questions. And even if it goes back to reviewing the protocols of our ICT management, so that if we are going to import our ICT system, then to what extent should the new team that maybe are working on it access it? Should we allow them to be in it at night? At what time? Should we still allow the foreigners to get hold of the system even after selling? Because remember, taxpayers, the Kenyan money has been spent in these things. But then their presence borders interference. That is what, and that is why I believe is behind some of these calls to make sure that we look at it. But then let me tell you, those are some of the two reasons why Azimio are demanding that we must audit. But William Ruto is seeing two dangers in it. The first danger is that it can open the space for improvement of the gaps to avoid the mess. I'm personally a bit reserved, and this is normally my position. I don't see President William Ruto honest in solving or rather pursuing election, corrective measures. I see Ruto as a man who will still want to use, if there is some mischief and some playbook that was used in 2017 and it was replicated in 2022, there will still be that seated somewhere in the offing to make sure that it still be used. And he knows very well that this expose, or that this audit might expose the tricks that could have been used in the past. And this exposition, this exposes of the tricks would actually give the audit life, and the audit will give political capital to the Azimio wing. I am telling you, the reason why the audit of the IBC and the audit of the servers cannot be accepted by William Ruto is not because there is no legal way. It's not, that's not the question. We've always formed commissions of inquiries, and these commissions of inquiries give report, and after giving report, the reports are taken to parliament and it goes. There is no difference between the bipartisan talks that we're organizing with a commission of inquiry that we're making. In fact, that bipartisan talk, that bipartisan team should recommend a commission of inquiry, which is also bipartisan, and the framework of also coming out with that commission, so that we relook into it. But then, William Ruto knows very well that the aggression by the Azimio wing is not to snatch power from him, is to get political capital, political relevance, and keep the supporters afloat. Because William Ruto is politically raiding and trying to ready and steady himself for 2027. So that is the real thing. It is not about Raila is going to do that or Raila is going to do this. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. Thank you very much for watching. We're grateful for the month of May, and of course, we continue to push in every front. I want to read your proposals on this and what is your position, because I'm just speaking from the point of just trying to break down that data and that report. And also you can give us your feedback about this, especially the guys in the IT. That's my point.